It's generally accepted that thinking positively is a really great, worthwhile thing. But I want to talk this week about where a focus on positive thinking can be problematic. So, this one's about the problem with positive thinking. Because, yes, as a life coach, I support people with their mindset. And we work on the basis and in the knowledge that the way that we think, our thoughts create our results. So, the things that we achieve, the things that we have in our lives. But it's not as simple as think lovely thoughts and lovely things will happen. It's much more complex and nuanced than that. And one of the dangers that I see when we're thinking about it in those more simple terms of like just think positively and things will be okay is we can start thinking that we're not allowed to have anything but positive thoughts. So we're not allowed to experience any kind of negativity around the thing. We're not allowed to have any negative thoughts. So, say, for example, you're trying to progress your career and maybe you're applying for jobs, for promotions, you're interviewing, and you see the connection between having a positive attitude and mindset towards that and things going well and you getting the job or the promotion. And so you start telling yourself, okay, I'll just focus on that. I will just think positive. I'll just imagine things going well, me getting the job, and I won't let any kind of negativity in. I won't let my brain go there because I don't want that to affect my chances. Or perhaps you're in a new relationship and you really want it to go well, you really want it to work out. And you see the connection between you having a positive mindset and attitude there and the relationship going well. So you tell yourself, right, I'll just think positive. I won't let any bad thoughts creep in because I don't want that to sabotage things. And this can happen with anything that's important to you, any kind of project or goal that you're working on, where you see the connection between you having positive thinking about it and getting a good outcome. It's very easy to start telling yourself that you can't let any negativity in. And this is something that I help a lot of my clients to navigate. It's been coming up a lot recently. I think it's really important, which is why I wanted to talk about it here. Because when we're thinking that we can only think positively and we're not allowed any kind of negativity in our thinking, we're not allowed to let any of that creep in, then it's a real problem because the brain is always going to think negative thoughts. It's always going to happen. It's just part of being human. So the brain has a negativity bias. So it's always going to look for problems. It's going to look for what might go wrong, what are the threats. It's part of the survival mechanism that we have. It's part of how we've survived as a species and got to the stage that we are, is that the brain looks for problems. So we're always going to have thoughts that create more of a negative mindset for us. That's not anything that we can completely escape. So if you're going for an interview, part of the brain's job is to create some fear and some doubt around that. If you're in a new relationship, part of the brain's job is to look for problems and what might go wrong and why might this not work out. So if we're telling ourselves that we must always think positive, but we're having all these thoughts that the kind of survival brain creates for us, it makes for a really terrible experience because we feel like we're doing it wrong. We feel like, okay, I must really be thinking positive in order to get the result that I want over here. But my brain is coming up with all this stuff and I can't stop it. And therefore, I'm doing it wrong and it's all going to go wrong. Like that does not feel good. And it's also a problem when we're telling ourselves that we can't think negatively, because often what it has us do is suppress the negative feelings that come from those more negative thoughts. We can't completely stop the thoughts. The brain is just going to do that. And whenever we have the more unhelpful thoughts, we have more uncomfortable emotions. And if we're seeing all of this as a bad thing, that we can't have it if we want to do well, we can kind of push those emotions down, we can suppress them, or we can avoid them or distract ourselves from them. That again is not a great place to be. It's not a great experience. It doesn't feel good in your body when you're not allowing yourself to feel the way that you do actually feel. And often those feelings that we push down pop out in other places. and often inconvenient places. So maybe like you push down that anxiety about work and then it pops out later on as irritability when you snap at your partner or your child or whoever happens to be there. So it doesn't feel good. It doesn't really create much that's positive for us. And also, really interesting in terms of this conversation is that research shows that when we suppress our emotions, it has a negative impact on our thinking. So, suppressing and not allowing ourselves to feel our emotions can have an adverse impact on our general outlook. So you see here where if we're telling ourselves we must only think positive because positive thoughts create good results, so we're not allowed to think negative thoughts and we suppress our negative emotions in order to try and keep in that positive mindset, it has the complete opposite effect to what we want, because suppressing those emotions actually then has us thinking in a negative way. So it's completely unproductive. So what do we do? That's the question. I'm not going to kind of leave you with that. The most important thing here, first of all, is that when we're suppressing our emotions, when we're not allowing ourselves to think negatively, then it really feels terrible and it doesn't work. But then we want to think about, okay, so what do we do instead? And it really helps to understand how things actually work, how it is that our thoughts create our results. So how it actually works is that what our thoughts create is not directly our results, but it is our emotions, the way that we feel. So we have a thought and it creates an emotion in our body. And that emotion then is what drives our actions, the things that we do, the things that we don't do. And it's those things that we do and don't do that directly create our results. So it's not like we think something positive and something positive happens. What happens is we think something, we feel a positive emotion like motivation, determination, focus, confidence. We take action from that place with that emotion, and that action creates our results. So we get ourselves thinking and feeling confident and determined. We go into the interview, we act from that place, we get the job. It isn't that we just sit at home thinking how wonderful we are and somebody sends us a job offer. It's not directly thoughts to results. It's our thoughts, our feelings, then our actions, and then our results. Okay, so what this tells us is that we don't need the thinking and the feelings to not exist at all, the negative ones. So we stick with the example of the job interview. You have a thought that you're not good enough to get the job and you feel doubt. We don't need that not to exist at all so that it doesn't affect your results. What we need is that it's just not the place that you act from. So we can have the thought that maybe I'm not really good enough to get this job, and we can feel doubt or uncertainty. But as long as we don't act from that, as long as we don't decide, okay, well, I'm just going to pull out and I'm not going to go, or I'm just not going to answer the questions, or I'm not going to try to sell myself in the interview because I'm acting from this just full feeling of doubt, then, or maybe it's fear, it's acting from the emotion that causes the problem, that creates the result. So what this means is that what we want to do is we don't want to stuff the emotion down. We don't want to act from it. What we need to do instead is just to allow it to be there. So imagine you're applying for a job and you're feeling the fear, you're feeling the doubt, and you spend a little bit of time being like, okay, I notice that I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling doubt. That makes sense. I know that's okay. And then from there, you decide, okay, but this is how I want to be thinking. This is the positive thinking that I want to adopt. And I'm going to act from that. That's what creates your result. It doesn't matter that your brain has kind of offered automatic negative thinking. Only matters if you stuff it down or you tell yourself you're not allowed to feel that way. It's totally normal to experience a whole range of emotions. And that's the other thing that I think is really helpful with this. It really helps if we soften the binary thinking, the binary language around this of positive and negative thoughts, positive and negative emotions. Like all emotions and thoughts are just emotions and thoughts. Some of them feel more unhelpful, some of them feel more uncomfortable, but really they're all equal. They're just part of the human experience to have a range of thoughts and a range of emotions. And the ones that feel more uncomfortable and the ones that we can tell aren't helpful, those are the ones that we want to just accept and allow to be there. And then the ones that feel more helpful, the ones that are going to drive us forward towards what we want, those are the ones that we really want to intentionally take action from. So, my overall message with this, really, the thing that I really want you to take away is that whatever you might be struggling with at the moment or whatever you're striving towards, you don't have to force yourself to think positively about it all the time. It's not realistic and actually it's counterproductive. It's okay to feel any of the thoughts, or to feel any of the emotions and to have any of the thoughts and actually just allowing those to be there, allowing yourself to feel scared, allowing yourself to feel sad or nervous or whatever it is actually a really helpful thing. And it doesn't stop you from then deciding, okay, I see that's there, but these are the things that I want to think on purpose. These are the things that I want to take action from. So get in touch and let me know if you have any questions about this. I hope it's really helpful and I will see you again soon.